Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Pursuit Production. My name is Daniel Brown. I'm one of the worship pastors here. I'm going to be showing you how to play keys behind the pastor the right way. One thing that is so important to be thinking about as you're playing behind your pastor at church is what is the environment you're playing in. In the Christian environment, there's so many different kinds of style of music. Some lean more towards the gospel, some lean more towards the CCM. Here at Pursuit, we lean more towards the CCM, the contemporary Christian music, but we're very passionate. We push, we're very rock and roll to an extent, if you would. And so with that being my environment, I want to make sure I'm playing things in a way that's conducive for the people to receive. Here's some things that I like to play and some chords that I like to use that work for our environment. Some basic chords are the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6. If you know the Nashville number system, it's a simple way of connecting the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G and putting a number to it. So I'm playing in the key of C, and this would be the C, the F, the G, and the A. I tend to stay in that realm of playing those chords. That G there, here's an A, and here's an F. Now, what I'm not going to do, because of the environment I'm in, is play a F sharp major 7th with some cool added, these cool tones that, and they're nice if you think about it. But if I'm listening to the pastor preach, I'm going to be pretty distracted if I hear someone almost playing these. They almost feel R&B, or sometimes you may use these chords more in a gospel atmosphere. But because that's not the atmosphere that my church is in, I'm not going to use those chords. And so the big part of playing behind your pastor is knowing your environment. Something else that's really important to be thinking about as you're playing behind your pastor is, what is my pastor actually talking about? What is the topic that he's hitting on? As I'm playing, I'm thinking about this question, because if I want to add value, if I want to support him well, if he's preaching on forgiveness or he's preaching on love, then something that I can do is play a song that is attached to the message that he's saying. That's how I can support and push him. So let's just say our pastor here is preaching on love and how God's love for us is so powerful that he would do whatever it takes. He would send his son Jesus to die on a cross for us. Okay, in my mind, I'm thinking of 3 songs. I'm just trying to think of some song that's going to connect to that message. Okay, what's a song that ministers to me and matches the message? Reckless Love. So I may go into that very softly, maybe not exactly to a beat, but I may start playing that melody. Right as he's preaching, come on, maybe there's someone who's in the room that you've had a hard time experiencing the love of God, but he's been chasing after you today. I'm here because I understand the message, the topic that the pastor is preaching on. What do? I'm thinking of a song that's attached to that to support and push the message without being distracted. There's so many songs on love. I mean, the pastor could be preaching on anything, and it's how can I add value on the topic that he's sharing on. We just had a pastor come to our church a couple months ago, and he was preaching, and he started hitting on like this talking about how great God is and how powerful he is. And because, again, thinking about the environment, and I knew there were some older people in the room, and he's preaching on how great God is, I started playing a song, How Great Is Our God. It's a well-known song in the CCM environment. And then straight out of that, I started playing How Great Thou Art. Why did I start playing these songs? Because the pastor's preaching on the greatness and the power of God. So I'm just playing it softly. And like I said, I'm not even playing it exactly to a downbeat. And this is an important point for you to think about as you're playing. When you're playing, you don't want to be so blocky and you don't want to be so structured that it feels like you are trying to play a whole entire piece of music. Because when you start getting into that realm, it can be distracting, and people are now more focused on your piece of music more than they're focused on the message. So let's say I'm playing that song, How Great Is Our God, behind the pastor. I'm not trying to overpower or overplay. I'm going to play a little bit more softly. And as you can hear me playing, you're like, well, Daniel, that's not exactly how the song goes. But if you notice, I'm hinting at the melody. I'm hinting at it. And it's like, how can I put this out there without slamming it in someone's face? Because I've seen it before where pastors are preaching and it almost feels like the keys player is like slamming something down my throat. And it's like, well, I'm trying to receive from the pastor and I'm now trying to focus on what the keys player. And it's, how can I play the song without distracting from what the pastor's trying to say? The third thing that you should be thinking about when you're playing behind your pastor is tone. You have to be thinking about, how is the pastor communicating? Is he shouting? Is he declaring something? Or is he pulling back? Is he getting emotional? Here at Pursuit, our pastor is very, very emotional and very theatric, if you would, in how he shares. He's very dynamic. That's a good word to use. He's very dynamic. When he gets excited, he goes from 0 to 100 quick. And then there's moments where he's sharing and he may get choked up and he starts to talk softly. And you should emulate and copy in some ways his tone so the listener can properly receive and you can match what he's saying. So, for example, I'm just playing again here, just playing softly. I may be in a progression. Let's just say I'm in a 3, 4, 5, 6 progression. And the pastor says, but the Spirit of the Lord wants to say. I'm pulling back just a little bit. Maybe there's someone in the room who really needs a touch. Did you feel that? Just by me pulling my voice back a little bit, what I naturally did when I played on keys was, let me go up to a higher register. Let me play a little bit softer, but maybe as he's sharing in that soft point, and maybe there's someone in here who's been struggling with that. But I'm here to encourage someone and tell you that there's a God who's seated high and he looks low and he has all power. And did you naturally feel that? It matches my voice. It matches where I'm going. And what would be no good would be if the pastor's declaring something and you're just, I'm here to let someone know that the power of God is here. And it's like, there's no connection to the pastor's declaration and what you're playing. And so as I'm matching the energy and the tone of what my pastor is saying, it helps the listener properly receive what the pastor is preaching. That's huge. If you can match tone, you're going to knock this out of the park. Here's just a few tips that I'm also thinking about as I'm playing. One of them is I don't want there to be dead space. The whole point of playing and scoring behind the pastor is creating an environment where no one can get distracted or thrown off. And dead space is one of those things that will really throw someone off. If the pastor is speaking and you just stop playing, or if, let's say, the pastor gets up to preach and it takes you 30 seconds to get everything set, and then now he's 2 minutes in his message and you start playing. Now everyone heads flip to you on the keyboard. That's not something you want. So the important thing is getting set, getting ready. So right when the pastor goes in, there's no dead space. And as he's preaching, there's no drop off. There's no like, oh man, I need to adjust my settings, or man, my ears are jacked up. So let me stop playing for 2 minutes and I'll come back. Dead space is a big distraction, and we want to minimize distraction as we're playing behind the pastor. One of the last things that I think is important is that we need to be prepared for when the band comes back up and the pastor is closing out his message. What you don't want to do is, as the pastor is closing out his message, you're kind of still in your own musical wonderland, if you would, of playing behind the pastor, and you're playing this song. He's talking about giving Jesus your all. So you're over here playing your classical arrangement of I Surrender All, and now your band's on stage, your pastor's closing out the message, and now you're trying to like stop what you're doing, and now like, oh, the band's here, I guess I should hop on board and get everyone connected. You have to be thinking about these things as the team's coming out, as the pastor's closing, of how can I get to a progression or some chords that the team knows so we can all start to fill in and create an atmosphere for the altar call. We want there to be a seamless transition. And so let's just say I'm playing a 6-4-1-5 progression behind the pastor. So maybe today there are some people who need to respond to the word that's coming forth. Maybe this word has touched you and you need an encounter with the Lord. I'm going to start playing that progression that's repetitive. I'm not going to be all over. I'm not going to keep doing what I was doing. I'm going to get to a progression that the whole team can play. And if like at our church, you have a talkback mic, I may even communicate that to the team. Hey, I'm in the key of C. I'm playing a 6-4-1-5 progression, really simple. Hey, if you want to type that into the Ableton so we can all start playing that together. Simple, basic. This is a little bit where you want the structure to come in. This is where you want to be a little bit more locked in so the whole team can come in. The electrics are swelling, the drums are coming in a little bit, whatever it is, so that your team can now support and back the pastor, right? We have to remember the main point of playing behind the pastor is we wanted to feel like a seamless connection and transition from beginning to end. We're trying to fill up that dead space so that the whole entire service, no one can tune out or figure out what's going on next. You want them to be so locked in. And so when the team is coming out at the end of the message, you want there to be a solid progression so that everyone can be connected, so that there's a seamless altar call and transition from the sermon part into the altar call. Just to recap the things I just shared with you guys. One, just remember the environment that you're playing in. Know your crowd, know the congregation, and what are the things that I can play that are acceptable to the church that I'm in. Two, what is the topic the pastor is preaching on? And are there songs that match what the pastor is saying that I can play to help support and add value to the message? Three, what is the tone that my pastor is communicating in? Is he animated? Is he theatrical? Is he declaring a thing? Is he loud or is he quiet? Is he being a little bit more emotional, a little bit more drawn back? And how can I play and match the tone that my pastor is communicating in? And four, it's that transitional piece. How can I seamlessly transition, whether it's at the beginning of the message of playing immediately or not getting lost while he's preaching, or even at the end when the band is coming back up? How can I make sure I'm playing chords the team can connect with? These are the things you should be thinking about as you're scoring behind the pastor. Hey, I had so much fun sharing these things with you. Make sure you like and subscribe right down below. Hit the noto bell if you want to stay connected on all the things that our Pursuit production page is posting. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Peace. Thank you so much for watching. This is your boy DB.XYZ. Make sure you tune. You already know what it is. Yo, boy out here. Let me stop. My Cash App is $. I accept it all, man. Checks, Zelle, Chick-fil-A gift cards. If you want me to come play at your church this Sunday, you can follow up at Daniel, the keyboard scorer, at gmail.com. Keep the score at gmail.com. There it is.